Experience, you referenced that you pitched Aunt Esther to come out to the ring with Flash Funk. Can we hear that story?
Oh my God. And I wish I remember which, because it went farther than I thought it was going to go, but it didn't go very far. But I can't even remember which pay-per-view it was or whatever. But I was talking to Shane Helms, and I said, sometimes when you're in that environment there, it's kind of Stockholm syndrome. You know, you're going too far, but you've got up in the spirit of things or whatever the fuck. And you look back on it later on and say, what the fuck was I even thinking? Too Cold Scorpio, when he came into the WWF, my idea was why can't he be Too Cold Scorpio? And I was overruled in this because they wanted to give him I said, he's been on the other fucking TV. People know who he is. He's been a star in Japan. He's does a lot of cool shit. You know, people think highly of him. Why the fuck are we going to funk with this? But instead, I was not consulted, and it was decided somehow that he was going to be called Flash Funk, right? And so from what Vince was describing, and he needed to be, you know, flamboyant and entertaining and colorful. So immediately, me being a Rick James fan, I said, well, you're trying to describe, it sounds to me like Rick James, you know, the king of punk funk, right? I said, he's the clothes and the wide, maybe dancing women, right? Oh yeah, we got to get him some dancing women. Okay. Well, then the first night they brought him to TV, they hadn't had Jim Johnston or anybody write any music for him. And in the production meeting, they said, well, what kind of music can we use for Flash Funk tonight? And we'll dub something in. I had a Rick James tape in my car, right, that I listened to. So it's probably out there somewhere on some reel in the warehouse. It looks like Raiders of the Lost Ark up there. But they play Love Gun by Rick James for Flash Funk. But since it's a dark match and they're just assing off, they start playing the music early. Vince is late going to ringside to sit commentary. So you see Vince strutting out down the aisle of a WWF Superstars taping to Love Gun. And then they got him dancing girls, and the music that was really a letdown when I'm thinking some heavy ass fucking Rick James goddamn grooves, and they came up with some lame ass shit. And I don't know that the clothes looked as much like Rick James as maybe they did to Jackson 5 in the 70s. This was really a throwback thing. But anyway, they were discussing what position maybe to put him in on some fucking pay-per-view. And I don't know whether he was going to be opposing someone that had like a Sonny or a Sable or whatever in the corner. And it was one of those days when I was fed up and just blurting out stupid shit. And I said, well, why don't we find Aunt Esther from Sanford and Son and see if she'll go in the fucking corner with it. And they actually called LaWanda Page, the actress who played Aunt Esther on Sanford and Son in the 70s. They called her representative or representation out in California or wherever the fuck, but she was at that point retired and too ill to travel. Thankfully, or elsewise it would have been my fault. That Flash Funk had Aunt Esther beating him over the head with a goddamn. But you know, once again, and that's me suggesting. But when you get in these talks and you get fucking at the end of your rope and frustrated and just blurting shit out, well, why don't we just do this? It's all like Sarcastaball. When they had Sarcastaball on South Park, you do watch that program, don't you?
It's been a while, but I support South Park.
Well, anyway, Randy Marsh invented Sarcastaball, where he said, well, why don't we just have the football game played with blah, blah, blah? And people thought he was serious when he was being sarcastic. He invented a whole new sport. That's what it's possible to do there when you get involved in talking to people that will go that far to call LaWanda Page.